Hello and welcome back to the Premier Injuries channel. This is our first video of 2022. I mean, we could throw in a dad joke about, I haven't done this all year. I guess we haven't done this all year, have we, Ben? But in terms of it, we're going to get right back into the usual swing of things. And I think the biggest thing that people want to know about at the moment is the Ben Chilwell situation. So the news has come out that his ACL injury has meant that he'll be out for the rest of the season. Why has that changed, Ben?
I mean, the reality of the situation, Jason, is it hasn't really changed. What we knew when it was officially, after imaging officially revealed that he had suffered a partial tear to that ACL ligament, was that they were always going to treat Ben Chilwell on a 4 to 6 week conservative program to see how that knee would respond to that treatment during that phase, and then a decision coming into the new year on depending on the progress he made on whether to continue with that in the hope that he would make a full recovery, or whether indeed that he would be forced down to surgical intervention. Now, obviously, the knee hasn't responded as hoped. There's obviously a little bit of discomfort in there. This is a prime example, if we remember just a couple of weeks back, where people seen Ben Chilwell on the training pitches. And again, they discussed that he's on the training pitches, so therefore he must be on the verge of a comeback. And it's always, wise to remember that it's a particular snapshot in time, whether it's a still image or whether it even is just a video, but they're taken in isolation. And, you don't know the context, you don't know what's going on. And, sometimes players are rehabbing for 4, 5, 6, 7 hours a day. You're maybe getting a tiny insight of around 20 to 30 seconds and drawing conclusions from that. And quite often they can be, misleading.
And so with the Ben Chilwell situation, maybe first and foremost then, why surgery? Why didn't they go for it straight away?
Okay, well, with regards to a partial tear, so there's minimal damage to that stabilizing ligament. What we can assume and understand is that those, the decision, regardless, if you go under the knife, we can instantly assume that he's out for the season. Now, if the knee is fairly stable and structurally, the ligaments in and around that, there's no secondary damage, and structurally seems fairly sound and solid, then is an option to maybe delay the surgical process, or certainly delay that decision-making process, maybe meet with further specialists in the hope that potentially you could return within a very shorter time frame. We do know with partial tears, they do respond well to conservative treatment. Obviously, in this case, that's not always the thing. But so, we can take a couple of things from that. One is that it seems to be isolated to the ACL ligament, which quite often, they have really good outcomes in terms of their recovery. And secondly, we'd be looking in terms of timelines, we could maybe look at that maybe 6 to 7, 6 to 8 month possibly recovery period, just because it's isolated to that ACL.
And when you say 6 to 8 month recovery period, is that just to get it healed and for it to be comfortable to run on again? Because as we quite often say here on the channel, there's a difference between 6 to 8 month recovery to 6 to 8 months return to peak levels of performance. That's a much longer way off, isn't it, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly within this instance, Ben Chilwell will be targeting a return to train with the squad for pre-season. If, we assume that's going to happen in and around sort of July, maybe if we're looking at July, maybe August, possibly to rejoin the squad on the trainer pitches, then we know that he's healed really well. The rehab has been fairly smooth. There's been minimal issues there. And look, I think that's more realistic. What we need to be focusing on is there's been a shift away from this. We always talk about time frames. When's he coming back? How many months? How many days? The reality of the situation is now there's a slight shift in all of the milestones in his recovery will be measured by task-based activities. So those will be activities which are set in place to go throughout of this recovery period. And once he achieves those goals without any reaction, he can then progress on to the next stage. Now, for some people, a particular milestone or a goal may take 7 to 14 days. For other players, that could be maybe 14 to 28 days. So I'm not saying that the time as a guide is irrelevant, but it's not, it's not the soul, and it's not the be all and end all. It's more about the ability of the player to be able to functionally perform sport specific tasks within football. We're talking, sprinting, stopping, deceleration, quick changes, directions, and repeating those motions over and over again. Once you can do that, then you can start to integrate yourself into full training, full contact, and then build up from there.
That's a really fascinating insight into maybe how injuries are wrongly looked at then, and maybe the correct way of analysing it. Because again, kind of looking at the time frame, 6 to 8 months, people go, oh, well, it's plain sailing. He'll be back in 6 to 8 months. And I think a lot of people kind of see that. A club will say it, and then they're disappointed. They get angry at club staff or something when things don't happen. But it's not always plain sailing, especially with these ACL injuries, is it, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely not. And case in point, despite the advancements in technologies, in surgical procedures, in players, we've went from the ACL rupture being a career-ending injury to a career-threatening injury to almost players returning to play within a 4-month period. Lots of examples for that. However, and I think we're at risk of maybe becoming a little bit blasé about how serious these injuries can be, and that assumption that regardless of what happens to a player, they're going to be back on the football pitch. And with Southampton, and then a player called Sam McQueen, he's a player that's just, I think he's 26 years of age. He's just announced his retirement, suffered a ruptured ACL, very much like a lot of players do in the modern game. But following a number of setbacks, complications in his recovery process, he just hasn't been able to get back to a level which will allow his body to tolerate the demands of the game. And he's basically been told he's slipped so far back that if he tries to play at this level now, his body in effect will just keep on breaking down, and he will keep on suffering setbacks. And he's made that decision now to walk away and take a step back. I suggest he'll probably, maybe have a month or two completely away from football, recalibrate, refresh, focus on something new, and then come back. And I'm sure, somebody like Southampton, who he's been associated with the club now for, I think it may be 16, 18 years, may have some kind of role within the club if that's what he wants to do, and wish him well.
And this is the thing that we're kind of warning people as well. We're fingers crossed something like this does not happen to Ben Chilwell, but there is always that risk, is kind of when any sort of medical procedure, any sort of injury, there is the chance that something might go wrong. We have advanced so much, but accidents happen, or people just don't always adapt to the situation well. So that is the kind of inside analysis of the Chilwell situation. And unfortunately, it means that we'll give regular updates, but realistically, it's going to be a long while before we're even talking about him being able to have minutes on the pitch, let alone being back up to that level. So for now, for the first video of 2022, I hope you've enjoyed that insight in one of England and the Premier League's biggest stars, Chilwell, and his injury journey. And we will be back again very, very soon.